program of Petra University, Surabaya, Indonesia. Through this video, I would like to explain about my competencies, my learning, my plan, as well as completing the modules of International Business Management, International Marketing Management, Global Strategic Management, and Multinational Enterprise and Government. So without further ado, let us move on to the agenda of this video. The agenda of this video is to answer 3 questions given. First is to perform analysis on self-awareness. In this question, we are told to conduct the 5 self-assessment tests and perform an analysis on the self-awareness. The goal of this question is to see my core competencies. Which competencies do I score high, and which competencies should be improved in the future? Second is to explain my career plan. The explanation is to be done for the next 1, 3, 5, and 10 years from now. The explanation must also be based on the self-assessment conducted in the first question. Third is to explain my learning experience. Joining the classes of Professor Dr. Casey Chen, I am expected to explain what I have learned and how I have applied them. The explanation is to be done through 3 examples. To simplify and structure my answers, I would like to use the input, process, and output, as well as the balanced scorecard as the framework. The first component of the framework is understanding the outcome to achieve. My goals can be categorized into the following 4 criteria: 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and lastly 10 years. Within a year, I expect myself to graduate from Petra University and done my thesis well. However, in the beginning of 2016, I still need to have an internship program. For that, I have chosen a marketing agency in Surabaya. I'm hoping that I can develop what I have learned from the previous on-the-job training program and the IMM class to help the agency grow bigger. Since marketing agency is not really a popular job in Surabaya, especially for business and management students. After graduating from Petra University, I would like to take another courses or training. My plan is to join fashion merchandising courses in a college. With that, I expect to improve my knowledge in marketing and communicating skills. As for in 5 years, I would like to have a career in lifestyle companies. I believe life is supposed to be spent for creating happiness for others, and I find this goal in a lifestyle business. This lifestyle business is also growing well in Indonesia. Thus, I see this as a good opportunity for me to grow as well. Lastly, within 10 years, I expect to have a stable career, so I could live happily with my family without worrying about the financial. Now, after we see what we would like to achieve, we begin with completing the inputs. There are 5 self-assessments to be done in order to perform the analysis itself, including learning style, entrepreneurship tendency, Big 5 personality, team roles, and last but not least, leadership style. Let us begin with the learning style. In this analysis, there are 4 criteria to be assessed, which are activist, reflector, theorist, and pragmatist. Based on the 80 questions, I have scored quite equally in the 4. However, this doesn't mean that I'm a mixture of all the 4 styles. When analyzed further, we can see that there are different levels of preferences. Out of the 4, I am more into an activist, someone who is looking at challenges as a fun opportunity, but less of a pragmatist, a strict or disciplined person. While for the reflector and theorist, I score moderately, meaning that I might gather information and a goal before performing the task, but the availability of such data might not be important for me. So here is the conclusion of my learning style. In entrepreneurship tendency, there are 5 criteria: need for achievement, autonomy or independence, creative, calculated risk-taking, and determination. This time, the score is not as equally distributed as before. In achievement, I scored 6 out of 12, below average, meaning that I'm not really result-oriented. In independence, I scored 3 out of 6, below average, meaning that I prefer to work with people. In creative, I scored 10 out of 12, above average, meaning that I am a curious and imaginative person with lots of ideas. In calculated risk-taking, I scored 6 out of 12, below average, meaning that I cannot really evaluate or analyze deeply. While in determined, I scored 8 out of 12, average, meaning that I'm quite an opportunist. Here we can see the summary of my scores compared to the average, showing that creative and determined is my competencies, compared to the other three. And here is the conclusion of my entrepreneurship tendency. Moving on, here we will see the big 5 personality of extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness to experience. In these 5 criteria, I score high in extroversion, showing that I'm a social person. Agreeableness is the highest among 5, showing that I adjust my tone or wordings when talking with each people to maintain the good relationship. However, this also shows that I don't tell things like it is. In both conscientiousness and neuroticism, I score below the average, showing that I am not really emotional or hardworking. As for the openness to experience, I have a tendency to keep looking for new experiences. And here is a summary for my big 5 personalities. In the 9 team rules, my score is spread unequally. To simplify the analysis, I'm going to group them into 3: high tendency, moderate tendency, and low tendency. We'll begin with the high one. I score high in specialist, implementer, thinker innovator, and team worker. This means that you can rely on me to give my best idea, knowledge, or skills when needed because I want to cooperate with you. In the moderate are the resource investigator and coordinator, showing that I am quite communicative and prefer to delegate the task. While in the low one there are shaper, monitor evaluator, and completer finisher, meaning that I cannot perform well under pressure. So here is the summary for my team roles capability. As for the last assessment, is the leadership style. There are 9 criteria here, and you can see that I score quite equally and above the average. Motivating, inspiring, and building relationships have the highest score once again, proving that I am more into a social person. Setting direction, aligning people, leading teams, communicating, and facilitating ethical conducts are in the moderate, while negotiating and leading change are in low. So in summary, as a leader, I want all of us to have good relationships. I want us to work together to achieve these not so flexible goals in the right manners. After we have conducted all the 5 analyses, I have become more aware of myself. I saw a lot of good traits. But simply says, there are 4 that really pops here, which are curious with new challenges, imaginative and full of ideas, social or extrovert, and prefer to keep things simple and practical. I also see a lot of traits need to be improved, including following the rules, self-confident, caring about the result, logical thinking, analysis skill, and most importantly, how to work under pressure or crisis. As we have seen how the self-assessments create awareness and make up the input to achieve the desired goals, let us see how these inputs were processed. Internally, we have seen my good traits and bad traits that need to be improved. However, these traits are nothing without the support of the learnings I have done in the past 2 years, the IBM, IMM, GSM, and NENG. In this part, I would like to share 3 real-life examples on how I have applied the learning from the 4 modules along with the application of the self-awareness analyzed before. The first example is on teamwork. Many of projects in IBM, especially for batch 12, is done in group. Since we have been told about this in the beginning of the study, we are more accustomed to it. Despite of having enough awareness, the execution of the project itself is not always as smooth as we think. There are a lot of people joining the group, yet each of us is unique and has different character, logic, and perception. In the process, I realized that first thing to do is to make sure that we all have the same goal. Being a social person and an extrovert really helps here, as we need to communicate with each other first to know what they want to do here. After understanding the background and goal, we can start developing the right framework on how we are going to finish the project itself. I believe that the characteristic of social and extrovert is really needed in a group. If everyone can be more open to others and listen to their needs or wants, we can work together to achieve the desired goals, without having bad feelings with each other, which at the same time might hinder us from the goal itself. The second example is the project I had during training program. From all the 4 classes by Professor Dr. Casey Chen, International Marketing Management really creates an impact to me. This subject has given me a lot of insights on how to attract the customers, especially through capturing their 5 senses. The one thing that I remember the most from this class is how to position ourselves as the customers. This lesson is very useful when I was doing my on-the-job training program in one of marketing agency in Jakarta. At that time, I was asked to develop a 360-degree marketing campaign for a product. Unfortunately, the product itself doesn't have enough specification, capability, or even brand to attract the targeted market. Thus, we try to cover this issue by creating the right campaign. In this project, the quality of being imaginative and full of ideas were really needed. We tried to come up with a lot of unorthodox ideas to capture the attention of the millennials who unfortunately did not really know about the product. One of the ways is to integrate it with the pop culture or artists that are more familiar to their eyes or ears. In the end, the judges were quite impressed by our performance, although they mentioned about our lack of call to actions, meaning that we had not done enough analysis. Here I realized that being logical was not the opposite to imaginative, but rather a support to it. Moving on to the last example is the final projects. This problem actually has happened to me for the past 7 semesters in IBM. Every semester, final is the most hectic moment where all the papers and presentations need to be done in just a week time. Time management is the only thing needed in this time. Unfortunately, working under pressure is not my peak core competencies. Knowing that the deadline is near or there is a crisis nearby got me stressed. At this kind of time, I need to rely on my characteristics of taking things as a challenge and keeping it simple or practical. I realized that I need to work harder and be more determined when working in such condition. Now to summarize what we have done so far, I would like to restate that in input, we have created the awareness on competencies and capabilities. In process, we see from the 3 examples how these traits are supported by the learnings. And in output, we understand what went right and what went wrong to plan the next steps. Since we have seen the input, process, and output, the next thing to do is to continuously monitor and control all of the process through the balanced scorecard. There are 4 things which will be my determinants in the balanced scorecard: internal process, learning and growth, financial performance, and lastly, stakeholders. In internal process, I would like to see a more stabilized competencies and characteristics, where I could change the bad traits into good and the good into better. I believe that this will affect me the whole plan starting from year 1 to year 10. In learning and growth, I would like to see an improved capabilities and competencies, where I want to see myself become more hardworking and to look for new challenges in order to develop myself further. I believe that this will affect me starting from the 3rd year. In financial, I would like to see myself having a sustainable financial performance through a growing career with sustainable pay. And of course, this will affect me from 5th year onwards. Lastly, and the most important of all, I would like everything to end with me having a happy family, where I have performed my traits and learning well, and this has developed me into a better person in the future. So to summarize the balanced scorecard, here is a diagram on the impact of the balanced scorecard, the monitoring and controlling, to my career plan. With that, we have completed the whole framework. And to conclude, in input, we have seen the 5 forms of self-assessments and put an analysis on it. In process, we have come up with 3 examples on how the learnings have supported the self-assessment itself. In output, we have seen the 1, 3, 5, and 10 years career plan that will be affected by the input and also the process. And in balance scorecard, we have seen how the internal process, learning and growth, financial, and stakeholders will be affected and will also affecting the career plan itself. We have also finished answering the 3 questions given on self-awareness, career plan, and learning experience. As we are approaching the end of the video, I would like to say my gratitude. Firstly, for Professor Dr. Cassie Chen for the guidance in the past 2 years, as well as the whole audience for viewing this video. Thank you for your attention and have a good